Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today we're going to prepare an old-fashioned cake donut. And if you've never made donuts before, you'll be very surprised to see how easy they are to make. And it doesn't require that many ingredients. So let's get started, and we'll start with our dry ingredients. What you will need is 1 1/4 cup of flour into a strainer, and to that we're going to add baking soda and cream of tartar. This recipe was my mom's, and it's a very old recipe. And back in the 50s, cream of tartar was used a lot more often as a leavening agent than it actually is today. But we're going to keep it original. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. We'll also add, for flavor, 1/4 teaspoon of fine sea salt. And we will add 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. You could also do cinnamon plus nutmeg, or you can replace the cinnamon with nutmeg. Quite often, and I'm sure you're very familiar with the cake donut that you see, I think it's in Dunkin' Donuts, their crullers always have nutmeg in it. So it's whatever flavoring you happen to really love. Here I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon to our flour mixture. And then that's it for our dry ingredients. You just want to pass it through the strainer, and we can set this aside and work on the remaining ingredients. So let me just put this aside for 1 second, and we'll work on our eggs and sugar. Here we go. So in this bowl, I'm going to add 1 egg and 6 tablespoons of sugar. You can just do this by hand. This does not need to be done in a mixer. You can certainly use a mixer if you want to, but it's not necessary. So just 1 bowl is all you need. What you want to do is just mix your egg and sugar until it's really well mixed. Give it a really good whip. And I want to add a little bit of flavoring here. So I'm going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Here we go. This is a small batch. This is only going to make about 8 to 10 donuts with some donut holes, which I thought you would like, as opposed to having to make dozens of donuts. All right, so 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla is going in with my 1 egg and 6 tablespoons of sugar. And now I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And I'm just gonna put a towel under here so hopefully my bowl doesn't move. I like to kind of slowly whip in our 2 tablespoons of melted butter, which, by the way, it's nice to cool it a little bit. You don't want it piping hot. And just whisk in your 2 tablespoons of melted butter. There we go. I'm just going to whip it again. Will show you what it looks like. I think you can see it's nice and loose. And I also have 1/2 cup of sour cream, and we're going to alternate the flour, beginning and ending with flour, and alternate with sour cream. 1/2 cup. Here we go. You just grab a spoon, and all you need is, at this point, a rubber spatula. I'm going to put in about half there, and just use a rubber spatula. I'll use the smaller one. And just go around and fold in your flour. At this point, you don't want to overmix so that the donuts stay nice and tender. Okay, so at this point, this is what our dough looks like. Now we'll add a little bit of, let's say about half of our sour cream, and fold in the sour cream, and you can go around and collect the rest of the flour around the edge of the bowl. Just fold it in nicely together. Now we can put in, I would say just leave behind a couple of tablespoons of flour for the very end. Let's fold in this flour, and then we will put the remainder of our sour cream. So this recipe was requested by our youngest daughter, Amanda, when my mom used to come and visit us. And this is my mother's recipe. When my mom used to come visit us, she always made the kids donuts, and they loved them. They really, really looked forward to Grandma's donuts. Okay, so this is nicely incorporated. Now we can add the rest of our sour cream. And it's so wonderful the way food conjures up memories, isn't it? And it's just a smell. I think even just smelling the oil starting to heat up, I can remember the smell and the taste of the donuts, because it was the one time that my mom did use oil in the house to cook with. Okay, so let's get the rest of that sour cream in. And I'm just folding it in, turning and folding, turning and folding. And then we can add the rest of our flour. And there's still a little bit of white streaks there, which is totally fine. But there we have our dough so far. And now we can add the rest of our flour. There we go. And just fold the rest of this in. And our dough is ready. Quite often, many recipes will have you refrigerate the dough. My mom never did. She made the dough and she made the donuts, and we stood there waiting for them to come, and we would eat them piping hot. So that's the way we're going to do it here today. We're not going to chill the dough, we're just going to make our donuts. And there's a lot of cake donuts like this that usually get dipped into icing, but we never had it that way. The only way we ever had them was plain or dipped with a little bit of sugar and cinnamon, which I'm going to do here today. All right, here is our dough. Okay, I think you can see, actually let me come close so you can actually see this. I think you can see that the dough looks quite sticky. So I always keep an additional, that's too sticky to actually roll out. So you always have measured another 1/4 of a cup of flour, which I do have right here, 1/4 of a cup. What you want to do is just take a little bit of the flour and just go around until you have a nice dough that you can put out onto your board or onto your table. It's almost there. What you don't want to do is have too much flour and use too much flour, because that will also toughen up the donuts. And I have to tell you, they are the very best is once you put them in the fryer, you want to just stand there and eat them right away. Okay, now I can come around and show you what it looks like now, just with an additional tablespoon or so of flour. You can see we're going to be able to roll this out very easily now. Okay? So the best advice I can give to you in regard to this is not over flouring or not using too much flour. My mom's original recipe called for 1.5 cups of flour, but she always knew when to stop. As I'm sure everybody has a mother, grandmother, aunt out there that's how they cooked, and my mom was one of them too. So take a little bit of that flour and put it right out on your table or cutting board, and put your dough. And in the meantime, if you happen to have a small deep fryer or a little Fry Daddy, you can certainly use it. We had purchased a small fryer like this because I always wanted to do donut holes for a petit four at the restaurant. And we finally did. I think our last couple of wine dinners, we ended up doing fresh donut holes for petit fours at the very end of everyone's dinner, which was a very big hit. So, but if you don't have that, you can do it the way my mom did, which was just in a cast iron frying pan. You can just put any type of a pot or a cast iron pan on your stove and heat up, make thermometer so that you can see where, that your oil is up to temperature. In this little fryer here, for donuts, it goes up to 374 degrees. Anywhere from 365 to 375 is what you want to deep fry your donuts in, okay? What you want to do is roll out your dough to about a 1/2 inch thick. And the donuts only take 2 minutes to cook. They take no time at all. Okay, put a little bit of flour over the top. There we go. And just take your rolling pin and roll this to about a 1/2 inch thick. There. This is a very nice, easy dough to work with. Very easy to work with. And just make sure you always have plenty. You don't need a lot of flour, but just make sure that your dough is going to be able to move around easily. You don't want it to stick on you. Okay. So you just want to take a pastry brush and just get rid of any excess flour. And then you can go around, you can take a quick look to see how thick you have it. This is about a 1/2 inch, so that's good. We should be able to get about 8 to 10 regular sized donuts and then a whole bunch of little donut holes. So take a bowl with extra flour, dip your ring. They do make donut cutters also. You could probably get them almost anywhere. I know my mom had one. I don't have a donut cutter. I don't know what happened to hers. But anyways, this is about a 2.5 inch ring that I'm going to use along with a 1 inch ring to do the little center. All right, so just go around and cut away. And then after we have the donuts, the large donuts will go in and cut out the center. And you can reuse the dough. Just gather it all together and you'll be able to make more. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7 here. And then do the same in the center. Pop out the center and just leave it on the side because we will deep fry those after we're all done with the donuts. And these donuts only take 2 minutes, 1 minute per side. You're going to put your donuts in and then set your timer for 1 minute and then just flip them over. So I'm going to do 3 at a time. Set it into the oil and I'll push start. In the meantime, let's put a little bit of flour right over here. I can move these donuts over and make some more. So that's a minute, and all I'm doing is just flipping over the donuts. My mom always used just a tray lined with a paper bag to be able to let the donuts drain a little bit. A 1/2 cup of sugar to a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. You can make them, if you want more, you can just add more, that's all. Okay, that's exactly 2 minutes, and our donuts are done. So, let me just, I'm going to just pull them out so that you can see how lovely looking they are. Okay, there's our beautiful donuts. And in the meantime, I find the best way to actually dip them is to really just put them in a paper bag and shake them. So I have a 1/2 cup of sugar along with a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon here. And then I just take my warm donuts and put them right in the bag and give it a good shake. We'll pull them out. And these are nice and hot. And our donuts are ready to be turned. It's a minute already, almost, yeah. And just going to give these a turn. And I would like to give you a nice close-up of our lovely donuts. That's how easy they are. And as soon as it's cool enough to open up, I'd love to show you what they look like on the inside. Well, it's cool enough for me to handle. Let me just give you so you can see what it looks like on the inside. These are absolutely wonderful. And they are the very, very best is right now, straight out of the oil. They do tend to firm up, and they're still very good. And as my mother always said, you can dip them in coffee. It's wonderful, even for the next 2 days. Okay, these donuts are done. And I'm going to just take one bite. I have to. They're wonderful. Okay, so let's pull these out. And you don't need to, it's amazing if you take a look, they're not greasy at all. They're really nice and dry. And it is important to have your oil at the right temperature. One last donut, and we can put in a whole bunch of donut holes so you can see the donut holes too. And the flavor is just really, the cinnamon flavor for me is nice and subtle, which is what I'm looking for. But if you want it to be stronger, that's the way my mom did it. And quite often I believe she used nutmeg over the cinnamon. She was a big nutmeg fan. So that's funny because we were raised in Connecticut, and I believe Connecticut is known as the nutmeg state. The donut holes are much, you just kind of move them around a little bit. You can't turn over the donut holes. They just bounce right back. So you can just move them over, move them around a little bit, rotate them a little bit, but that's it. This really does bring back wonderful memories for me. This was one treat we had often in our household. Certainly growing up, I know my brothers and I remember this all too well. Let's get some donut holes in here. Give them a good shake. Right. And I have a little dish here. Oh, they look great. So that is it to this recipe, but so much fun and so good. Here are our little donut holes. Okay, so one last time. It's 1 1/4 cup of flour with an additional 1/4 cup set aside. 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of fine sea salt, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 egg, whisk in 6 tablespoons of sugar, along with 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Then you will alternate your sour cream. 1/2 cup of sour cream. Alternate your dry ingredients with your sour cream, beginning and ending with your dry ingredients. Get your fat to 365 to 375 degrees. Cook 1 minute, turn them over, cook a 2nd minute, and you're all done and ready to go. Thanks again, everyone. Hope you enjoy. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye now.